Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro, and welcome. Faster Masters is where having a rowing coach only makes you better. Following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident sculler who's respected by your peers. You can become the athlete you want to row with. Now, I'm Rebecca Caro, and as ever, I'm joined by Marlene Royal.
Hello, Rebecca, and hello to our Faster Masters. We're glad to be here.
Absolutely, as ever. And so nice to see people already watching live. I have this, look, a little thumbs up from someone on Facebook. Thank you so much. And kick off by, and 2 love hearts. Oh, my golly, they're flattering us today, Marlene.
Well, this is our favorite thing to do every week, isn't it?
It is. We want this to be your favorite podcast too, the one that you can't miss. So for our live watchers, please remember that if you'd like to contribute, you can write comments below the live stream and we can see them and respond to them. So first, kick off by telling us who you are and where you're watching us from. Now, we always have lovely sponsors who support us and we're really grateful for them. And this month, we're particularly focusing on the rowing directory. This is a long-term project that I've been building for quite a while on the rowing.chat website, that's the Supra website for all of the rowing podcasts on the Rowing Chat Network, which includes this one, Faster Masters Rowing Radio. If you go to the website, www.rowing.chat, on the menu is the word directory. Click there and you will see 20 different categories. And we have updated listings for the Rower Academy, which is a program run out of the US to help your high school kid get into a rowing university. We have the San Diego Crew Classic, which is now listed under the events. We're very pleased to have them there. And they, of course, are running a virtual event this year. We have Volare Sports. We have the Ready, Set, Row camps, which is updated. We also have a link for the Hudson Worldwide Boat Builders, and that includes links to all of their national reps, as well as, of course, head office in Canada. And we have updated for Latanzo rowing parts. So if you need spare parts for your rowing boats, go and check out Latanzo Rowing. And lastly, for Coffee Corp. Coffee do the indoor rowing simulator where they join together different rowing machines. And so it's spelled COFFE, EY, sorry. It's not like coffee. Anyway, it's rowing.chat. Go look at the directory. And we very much hope that you can help us by helping other rowing businesses. Now, we have some watchers. Hi to Penny Johnson, who loves being able to tune in live. We know Penny is in Australia. And she says, "You're making me boycott my Facebook ban because she's in Australia." Yeah. That's big news that they've turned off all news pages, which I think, am I right, Penny? It's newspapers and radio stations. Facebook is not sharing any information to anyone in Australia from a news organization because Google is close to agreeing to pay news organizations in order to list their articles on Google. Facebook is refusing to allow them to share because they don't want to pay. And hello from Cece from Whidbey. She said, "The snow came and went, the wind and the rain are back, and she's cross-training again." Cece always gives us a weather report, which is kind of cool. And hey,
Lauren. We haven't heard from Lauren in a while. Good to see you.
Hey, Lauren's from Gig Harbor. So nice to see you here. And Claudia Pace, who was our guest on last week's show. If you didn't catch last week's show, Claudia explained as a board member and the coordinator of a masters rowing group, how she manages the group and balancing the different expectations and goals of the different members of the group. So it was particularly insightful to hear how she's managed to do things. So if you're in a position of leadership in your club, then I think you might find that quite interesting. And Jeanette is in Dundas, Ontario. Hello, Jeanette. Still that gorgeous picture of you sculling across flat water. This past week, this is the segment in the show where we talk about what Marlene and I are doing to advance masters rowing more generally. As you all know, we're on a journey to make masters rowing more relevant to a lot of people, to create a place where masters find useful tips and tricks, things that will help them enjoy their rowing more. And this past week is where we tell you about the things that we've been doing. Who wants to kick off?
I'll go first. How's that? A little bit about this week. Well, I must admit, this week was just full of a lot of work. But by work, I mean a lot of coaching. And I was really hunkered down this week doing a lot of coaching. And as most people know, I work remotely, as I have since 1999. So I'm corresponding, in the course of the week, I'm corresponding with a lot of different athletes, Faster Masters athletes included. And I had a particularly interesting exchange today, which I wanted to pass on to people because I think it highlights some of the issues that Masters athletes commonly face, as well as some strategy to maybe mitigate those problems and look for ways out of the box to find some solutions. So one of our Faster Masters athletes wrote to me, and he was feeling a little bit like he's underperforming lately and not sure if he's, questioning whether he's making progress and, just not quite sure what's going on. He had done a lot of virtual races last year and had performed quite well, but right now was feeling like he's doing okay, but I don't know, maybe he's not feeling quite mentally tough enough right now, or, was just kind of looking at the whole situation, feeling kind of run down, a little bit tired. So in this exchange, I said, well, what is your schedule like? How are you, when do you train, for example? Let's start there, because obviously he said, I have a busy work week and I do a lot of, I'm following the Faster Master program, but I do, my harder work on the weekends. I don't have a lot of energy during the week to do a lot of sessions. So anyway, we started to dive into this a little bit. And as it came out, and I can understand why it's hard to train during the week because he works all day, comes home after 5, has dinner, and would like to train in the evening after dinner, but often that's it's just difficult. It's really difficult to have energy at that time of the day, obviously, and then it leads to going to bed late, which makes it difficult because you have to get up early. So some of the things that I suggested to him, and other people might have some issues like this too, is during the week, you've got a really busy schedule. One of the things that I felt that we identified right away was this athlete is not getting enough sleep. So that's rule number 1, because as soon as one of my trigger words is, as soon as I hear mental toughness, or I'm not sure if I'm mentally tough or it's this or that, the first thing that comes to my mind is you're tired. And mental toughness is very difficult to achieve when you're tired. So one of the books I recommend reading it's a classic book. It's been around for a long time. The New Toughness Training for Sports by James Loehr. This is kind of a classic sport psychology book, but and it's a great book. So I recommend anybody reading this. But he talks a lot about your performer self and how you develop your performer self. But one of the foundations is your physical fitness. And you're not going to achieve something just great by thinking about it. You've got to be physically prepared to do it. The second point is that you've got to be prepared from the point of view that you're not in a state of fatigue. When you're in a severe state of fatigue, your willpower goes way down. And anybody who's ever tried to be on a diet knows this, right? The more the day goes on, the more decision fatigue sets in, your willpower is going to go down. And that's going to affect training at the end of the day. So to make a long story short, what I suggested he try is try to get at least another hour's sleep so that you're getting closer to 7 hours, not 6. That's a critical difference of time. 7.5 to 8 would be better, but 7 is definitely better than 6 hours. What I suggested was, for training during the week, perhaps you take your 2 rest days during the week when you're working instead of on the weekend when you have more time. Take your rest days during the week. Perhaps you do strength twice a week, and maybe the other day or 2 days you do another key aerobic workout. But my suggestion was, have a snack at work at about 3 to 4 o'clock. Eat something. And then when you get home at 5 o'clock, do your training right away when you get home. But make sure you've got energy, because if you wait from lunchtime, you're going to be hungry, which is why you want to eat dinner when you go home. So have a snack at work so you have time to digest, get home, do your workout at home, and then push dinner a little bit later. Have a lighter dinner than maybe you normally have, something a little bit lighter, but eat it a little bit later so that you can then go to bed by 11 o'clock instead of going to bed by 12 or 12:30. And that right there, you get your extra hour, an hour and a half sleep, and you've been able to train before you have dinner and relax and et cetera, et cetera. So that was one of the solutions we said we'd try to organize the schedule, so that you can be a little bit more consistent with your training and your fitness.
That is such a good insight into the reality of one real person. And I often feel, as you pointed out, decision-making and fatigue are opposite ends of your capability spectrum. And recognizing that a food intake gives you energy. I know that when I'm tired, my body goes, feed me. I don't need to. But it gives me the wrong signals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great advice. And if anybody listening has something to echo that, that's really, really cool. So Cece, do you want to read this, Marlene?
Sure. What Cece tells us: I started using Whoop, and it tracks all my sleep, strain, recovery, etc. It was very eye-opening to see that I always aimed for 8 hours of sleep. So to go to bed at 10 and get up at 6 is 8 hours. Well, it turns out that due to disturbances in my sleep or latency time, the time it takes to go to sleep, I need more time from going to bed to getting up to make my needed sleep time. So it's made a huge difference. Whoop tells me when to go to bed and for when I want or need to wake up, and depending on my effort. So yeah, you would be amazed how much difference even an extra half an hour of that good REM restorative sleep makes a huge difference. And it's so easy when you're going to bed really late. That's probably for someone on a training set, that's probably the easiest thing you can fix. Like, why do you need to go to bed so late?
Exactly.
Go to bed a little bit earlier, So, it's just things I think awareness is huge here. And if you're starting to say, like, God, I'm really tired, and well, why am I going to bed at that hour? What could I shift it, another half an hour or sometimes people get up really early for their jobs and they don't have to. Like, if you're getting up at 5:30 and you're not going training, you're getting up, but do you really have to get up at that time? Or could you benefit from getting up at 6:30 and having an extra hour of sleep? So, everybody's got their personal routines, but you can examine, like, do I really need to go to bed at the time I am going to bed, or do I really need to get up at the time I'm getting up? And can I harvest another half an hour on each end, because that hour can make an enormous difference.
That's such a good insight. Thank you for that. Now, my work this week, in terms of advancing the cause of masters rowing, I've been participating in a virtual regatta run by Pembroke College, which is my old alumni university. We have to do 1,100 meters, and it's a knockout regatta with a competition for people who lose in the first round. And so we've had to do this race every day for 4 days. And our coxswain from my 1986 crew has reunited the crew. So thanks to Sian Griffith, who's got us all together. And all the rest of them are running, but I'm erging because I can't run because I have no ACL. So that's been a ton of fun. And they're also organising a virtual cocktail party for us on Saturday, which will be fun. Last week, yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. It's still going on. I still have a couple more pieces to do. Last week, I reported on the Scrimmage regatta that we ran here in Auckland, and I've written up some notes and a checklist for Scrimmage organisers. And I wonder if you're listening to this and you think that it would be useful and you'd like to receive something like that so that you could organise a Scrimmage locally, please get in touch and let us know, and then we'll work out how to publish it. So that would be nice feedback. And then we have a note from the One Sporting World organization via David Cotton. So David is an amazing man who fundraises for an enormous amount of charitable causes, particularly using rowers and rowing. And he pulls together experiences that you can't get any other way, like going out in a boat with an Olympian. His business is called Party for the Podium, but he's partnering with One Sporting World to fundraise for mental health. Now, they have a live fundraiser right now, and the Facebook event link is on the screen, and I'll put it into the show notes. And if you'd like to get involved, he would love some help. And if you're in a position to offer him some publicity and on-share this event, that would be absolutely awesome too. So thank you, David, for your continued amazing work for fundraising for good causes, but also, please, if anybody listening can help, that would be awesome. Now, the last thing I have is a fun little survey that I have done with people on Masters Rowing International, which is called the Magic Wand Survey. So I have put up a little poll, which I hope that people will enjoy. And here it is. And what it says is, today I'm giving you a magic wand. What is the number one thing you want or need as a Masters rower? And I put up like 2 suggestions, and people have just written so many fun things.
Oh,
so
God.
The number one thing is to be back on the water, which is kind of unsurprising. It has 234 votes right now. And then Deb McCabe has added more free time to row, and 101 people agree with her.
Yeah, so, I know Deb McCabe. She's out in Colorado. Cool.
And then the ability to row with a teammate has 95 votes, added by Dee Dee Birch. Peter Knowles says to compete and meet colleagues who I haven't seen for over a year. Yeah. Leslie Wright says, I'd like a return to normal with racing and crew boats.
Yes, all of us.
Janine Wright Nolan offers flexibility as her wish. Now, that's a real magic wand thing, but it's actually something you can do something about. So, yes, Janine, I can't grant it as a wish, but I can show you how to improve your flexibility. However, Marie Graven says she wants childcare support, which I can't offer.
Yeah, we're too far away to do that.
Yeah. We have some funny ones. Robert Leavitt says he'd like to be 30 years younger.
Oh, we can do that for sure.
Eric Serge Blau says he likes loads of money or a crate of beer. Well, that's cool.
Beer's possible.
Yeah, exactly. He can join Jerry Murphy, who wants a pint of draft Guinness in the Cut Club bar. Blair Renown wants a new back. Richard Mosey wants to learn to scull because he's always been a sweet oared rower.
Oh, that's a nice goal. I like that. Our magic wand can sling you 2 oars really quickly.
And Anya Weaver says she'd like a coach who will invest in the masters rowers indiscriminate of their age and level.
Yes.
Which kind of echoed by James Holmes Seidel, who says, I'd like to have masters rowing and athletes taken seriously. So there you go. The link is in the show notes, and we'd be very happy to get some more suggestions for the fun magic wand.
Yes. Well, you can count on masters to always give good answers. That's for sure.
Totally agree. Oh, I forgot. Let's have a look at my picture this week. This week's picture is the most glorious picture of a women's masters quad doing a head race. And they've all got their woolly hats on, and it's a sunny day, and 3 of them have dark glasses, and they really look like they're having a good time. Middle pair are grinning, and I don't think it's grimacing. Thank you for sharing that. That's such a lovely picture. Now, part of the work that Marlene and I have been doing this week has been analysing force curves, because the bonus in the Faster Masters programme for February is to share a video of yourself on your rowing machine and a still photograph of your force curve. Now, despite everything, you think everybody's going to be different. There are some really common observations that we found over and over, which we thought we'd share publicly. So we're not picking on anybody, but it'll give you some tips of things that you can watch out for in your own rowing. So Marlene, what's your number 1 common observation?
If I were going to pick one, I would say that after the peak of the force curve, we see that the last third of the drive, the force curve isn't symmetrical to the beginning part of the force curve, meaning that the drive power kind of trails off at a slope instead of it mimicking what the shape of the curve looked before the peak. So that was probably one of our most common things that we saw in terms of the shape.
And the second most common one is at the very start of the force curve, it's a very sharply vertical line. So it's like it's kicked off hard, and then it kind of flattens out and plateaus before building to an actual peak. So Marlene, from your point of view, what does the shape you just described tend to indicate about how the athlete's applying power? I think we have a bit of a delay in our transmission. I think my internet might be going a bit slow.
Yes, it was breaking up a little bit, so I didn't hear your question.
What does it indicate, that shape that you described?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What it means is that if you're starting the drive with good power and good use of your legs and body, as you're getting into the last third of the drive, you're losing your drive suspension. So when as the legs are starting to complete the body swing and the arms aren't picking up the power, so the drive suspension kind of falls down. And so working on that sequencing can really improve the power of the drive through the entire drive.
And for the one that I chose, the indication of a very sharp upward slope at the very beginning usually means you're kicking the catch too hard. And that can also affect the last part of the drive, as Marlene described, that you're losing drive suspension because actually you could have wasted some of your leg power too early on. And so there are drills that can help you overcome these. But if you see these shapes in your force curves, that will give you some clues about what you could be working on.
Yeah, and working on smoothness. Working on a smooth line means good transitions from one body part to the other on the drive.
Absolutely right. Now, our big topic for today is cross-training. So cross-training is generally referred to as some sort of fitness training, which is not rowing. So Marlene, big question. How does cross-training fit in with a master's rowing program?
Well, I would also define cross-training because, and I was speaking with a team this week and the topic of cross-training came up and we had an interesting discussion about it, which is why I wanted to bring it up today. What actually is cross-training? Now, where does strength training fit in? I put strength training in a cross-training category because it's not rowing. Some people don't put strength training in a cross-training category because when they talk about cross-training, they're talking only about aerobic cross-training. So I think, first of all, you have to define what do you consider cross-training. To some degree, I think you could even say the erg is cross-training for rowing because it's not rowing, but it's something that assists us to become better rowing the way that strength training does. So that's just, I'm not giving a specific definition one way or the other. I'm just saying, explore a little bit what you think is cross-training. I put strength training into a cross-training category because it's something that is outside of our regular rowing, but something that can also help us. So with cross-training, I think a strength portion of it is quite important for masters because they need to maintain muscle mass. You need this stimulation of strength training to stimulate the protein synthesis, which keeps your muscle mass going. And men and women need it for different reasons because they have different hormonal changes. So that type of strength training, cross training is important in your program so that you maintain power. Aerobic cross training, I don't necessarily hold the position that one must do other aerobic cross training. I think a lot of masters like to do other activities or feel that depending on how their body responds, they may want to do a different activity that's different than the rowing motion. I don't insist that it's necessarily has to be that way. You do get better rowing by rowing. And certainly more time in the boat does make you a better rower than less time in the boat. I think if you are you're regularly doing another type of cross training because it fits in aerobically, maybe it fits in better with your schedule and it's a way maybe to hop on the bike or run or hike or swim or something else that you do fits in. It can be a great way to maintain your volume if you don't have time for a full rowing session that way. I think where you need to be careful with cross training is if it is something that you don't do on a regular basis and you start doing some new activity, that's when you're at a high risk for injury because if you don't typically run and then you say, well, I can't row, but I'm going to go run for 45 minutes and you don't typically run, that's going to be kind of a shock to your body. And again, you can experience tissue fatigue. You set yourself up for possible injury. So it can be a great way from a psychological point of view to get outside and do something with some other people, cycle with some other people, hike, do things together with some people who don't row as a part of variety. And but I don't think it's 100% necessary from a physiological point of view unless you feel you need it. So
I totally subscribe to that. And I think the variety thing, particularly if you live in the part of the world where through the winter, you only have to train indoors, because the water's frozen. a lot of people I know like cross-country skiing, and you've mentioned it yourself as being a great aerobic exercise. I know a ton of people who love cycling. For myself, running is not on. It doesn't do it for me physiologically, because I can't sustain it. So it's less useful, I suppose, is perhaps where I'm saying. But I love your observation about how things fit into your schedule, because there was a great anecdote told us by a lady who wanted to train more in her rowing, but she was a mum with young kids, and she took the kids to a swimming class regularly. And she put her erg in the back of the car and used to erg in the car park while her children were swimming.
It's great. I would do something like that, right? Totally. Take your erg with you, right? Just make sure you've got the right kind of vehicle.
No, I just thought that was a brilliant thing to say. And don't forget the muscle mass thing, particularly for women who are coming into menopause, perimenopause, or in menopause or postmenopause. Keeping our bones strong is really important for living well in the later stages of our life. And there's a lot of resource and material out there about that. In fact, I've written extensively articles about why rowing is helpful for women approaching menopause, which you can find if you search for them. So, yeah, I mean, what, Marlene, for you yourself in summertime, do you do cross training in summer?
In the summer, well, we'll do a lot of walking. I do some running. Just kind of depends a little bit on schedule. And then we often do, because I have trails nearby, that I actually, with the mountain bike, we actually do combination sort of biking running sessions. So, we bike part of the time, fast walk, get off the bike, fast walk part of the time. I do those types of cross training sessions in the summer, and because it fits in, because it's something I can do with some other people who don't row. In addition to rowing. And so that's probably the other main outdoor thing I do besides rowing. And I still do indoor stuff like the ski erg and stuff, that strength in the summertime. But
one of the ladies I row with has a Friday morning date on her surf ski. So that's a ski kayak. And she has friends that she connects with doing that, which is great.
Definitely. I think, as I said, the main thing is to make sure that when you think of cross training, if you have a couple of things that you do regularly and your body's adapted to those things, it's important to maintain a certain amount. If you're going to a completely new activity, like you decide, I'm going to start kickboxing, right? And you don't normally kickbox. Well, I've seen lots of people wiped out by their first 2 kickboxing classes because they get injuries. So, just if you're starting something new, just be very cautious. And remember, it's a transition. We've talked about transition periods before. So give yourself time to adapt so that it doesn't take you out of rowing, please.
Yeah, and not just kickboxing. There are a lot of people who like to do the sort of hard man things and the boot camp, and very few coaches who run these commercially available programs have any experience of masters athletes, and they do not recognize the importance of that transition. And I have had people get injured so quickly and feel very frustrated and feel they've wasted their money, which, is not what you want.
Right, exactly.
Tony says, I miss deadlifting. I felt strong and powerful and very fit. I've been downhill since last March the 13th, which was Friday the 13th. We didn't talk about superstitions.
No, but Tony, are you able to deadlift, or have you stopped for a certain reason?
Maybe he can't get to his gym.
Oh, well, that's quite likely too. Yes.
Yeah, not good. And I feel for you. So we have a lovely little local gym here, which is just outside the hospital. So it's full of hospital staff. And I dived up there because I'm doing some rehabilitation on my knee, building up a little muscle. And it was so nice after we had a mini lockdown, just 3 days. But it was so nice that the gym was open again and, I could get in.
Well, and it's true, at least with strength training, there are people who really, it really makes the difference in how they feel, that if they don't maintain that strength training, that they really just feel on top of their game when they keep up on their strength. And that's an important thing to realize. Maybe Tony, if you can get some kettlebells, at least you can do some kettlebell deadlifts, or get something that you can try to substitute at home. But hopefully here in Quebec, things will be starting to open up a little bit.
Yeah, Tony says exactly. It's because he can't get to his gym. It's closed. Now, to wrap up today, I would like to encourage some calls from listeners. Marlene and I have said many times that we really love doing this podcast. And one of the things we like particularly about it is that you guys are listening live and you're putting comments in. But we recognize that in Europe, it's now super late in the day, and it's pretty unlikely that we have many people listening live from Europe unless they're night owls. And so what we would love is to get some feedback from you. What are things that you would like us to talk about? What are things that you love or hate or would prefer us to talk less about or more about? And so I am sharing now on the screen my cell phone number, and I would love you to send me a text message. Tell me what you think, and we will do our best when we're doing our planning. So some of the things that we've thought about doing more of are having guests on the show, like we tried last week with Claudia. So that's a possibility. You might have some suggestions, or you might like to suggest yourself. You might like to tell us a little bit about whether you like different segments of the show. As you probably noticed, we have an opening piece, which is called This Past Week, of things that we've been doing. We then tend to have a couple of small discussions about little insights that we pass on from our own coaching practice this week. And then we tend to have a bigger, meatier topic, which is obviously up for a longer discussion. But for anyone who could be bothered, and I sincerely hope you can, my number is +64 22 647 3993, and I'll put it in the show notes. And I would very much like to get feedback from you guys about what makes this show good and how we could make it better. Tony tells us that Claudia's contribution last week was excellent. Thank you so much. Wasn't she great? Here's Jeanette reflecting back on our earlier discussion about cross-training. Do you want to read it?
Sure. Jeanette tells us, surrounded by beautiful conservation area, getting out for bikes and hikes on our trails is a lovely way to cross-train. There's only so much indoor training we can do before going a little nutty. Yes, absolutely. And when you've got nice access to trails and woods, it's really important to get out into the green and out into the fresh air. Especially now when it's winter, where some of us live, where get out into the white, right? So that's energy, gives you energy.
It certainly does. And I think there's something about kind of resting your eyeballs by looking at some landscape that isn't a cityscape. Just
even 15 minutes outside in the forest, in the green, is proven to be extremely restorative. So if you don't have a lot of time, even just getting out for a short walk can definitely help you feel better.
Yeah, definitely endorse that. It's been great hanging out with you guys today. Thank you so much for being on the journey with Marlene and I and Faster Masters Rowing Radio. This is the place where having a rowing coach only makes you better. Following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident sculler who's respected by your peers. You can become the athlete that you want to row with. So I think that's all I've got for this week.
Oh, we have one Lisa McMath in closing. Sorry, I'm late to the party. Thursday is my hiking day. Well, Lisa, at least you can catch us on recording anyway. Lisa is another Colorado rower. So.
And of course, the hiking would have been great for the cross training. Lisa, you will know that you were spot on topic.
Oh, and Tracy Falkenthal. Yes, she is a personal trainer. She is a rower in Austin.
And Tracy says, on another note from a few chats before, thanks for the bird in the hand tip in terms of holding oar handles. So that's my one about hold your hand as tightly as you would hold a small bird or a kitten. And
Good.
then she says, also, Marlene, I love the loose fist exercises.
Oh, my catch, that's my catch drill, you know, when you open and close the hand.
And Penny, you read this one.
Yes, I loved hearing about the sleep advice. I'm not getting anywhere near enough. And I mean, I think if there was one thing I would tell people, get enough sleep. Even if that means you have to reduce your training, get enough sleep, because I think people do not put enough emphasis on rest and recovery. And, you know, I'd rather have you sleep an extra half an hour and take a half hour off your training per week if you need to, but you need the sleep for everything: weight control, feeling fresh, quality of training. So take naps.
Yeah, I have an alarm on my phone that says at 9:30, start preparing to go to bed.
Yes, you have a routine.
And we have some nice woohoos from Lisa, and a wow from Penny, and a yes from Tracy. So
yes, good.
That's so nice. You can see why we really enjoy doing this show. It's because of you guys.
Totally. Yes. Oh, well, and the people in Colorado and Tracy in Texas, I mean, they're in the deep freeze right now. So hopefully you guys will come out of that a bit, you know. So
we put an 8 out this week where Bow 3 were all from the US, and I said to them as we came off the water, what's this about Austin and Texas getting so mad about a tiny bit of snow? I said, that's a tiny bit of snow. And they said, yeah, but what you don't understand is that they've had freezing rain and they've got this like black ice underneath the snow. So actually it's really treacherous.
Oh yeah. I mean, years ago in the year 2000, I think in the year 1999, I drove to Austin from Craftsbury because I trained in Austin, and it was Christmas Eve and there was a massive ice storm. And we got to Austin. There was no one on the highway driving halfway across the country, and there were cars everywhere off the road. It was just like there were more cars off the road than on the road. So I don't know if they've had a massive ice storm until now since that one, but it was quite an experience.
Horrible. Someone says yes to the sleep time reminder. And Jeanette thanks us for excellent advice. That's so kind, Jeanette. Thank you.
Super.
Right. Well, till this time next week. Thank you all for being on the journey with us. Bye-bye.
Bye.